One of the most powerful and unexpected places the authority wound shows up is in our relationship with our children. Because when we become parents, we don't just love our children, we step into the role of authority in their lives. And if we haven't healed our own relationship with authority, that will naturally show up in the way we parent. Hi everybody, I'm Dominique of Nurturing Astrology. In my work, I teach a conscious parenting approach through astrology. And one of the core principles of this work is this: if you want to support your children's growth in a healthy and empowering way, we have to take responsibility for our own growth first. Because our children are not just learning from what we say. They are learning from how we show up, how we handle authority, how we use our voice, how we respond to stress, conflict, and responsibility. Let's talk about what happens to the authority wound when it's unconscious. Often we unconsciously or consciously repeat what we experienced growing up, or we swing in the opposite direction. Some parents become more authoritarian because that's what they were shown. Others become permissive because they don't want their kids to feel what they felt. But often these responses are still shaped by the past. They're reactions, they're not conscious choices. And the challenge is that every child is unique. What one child needs, another may not. So when we parent primarily from our past wounds, we may miss what our child actually needs in the present. This is where conscious parenting asks us to pause and reflect. Am I responding to my child in the moment, or am I reacting from my own past experience with authority? Because true authority in parenting is not about control. It's not about avoiding structure either. It's about conscious leadership, providing guidance, boundaries, and support in a way that respects the child's individuality while also helping them grow. And from a deeper perspective, many people resonate with the idea that children come into our lives with their own unique path and purpose. You might think of this as personality, temperament, or even a soul level growth. And often children bring forward qualities that naturally activate our own unresolved patterns. Which means that the moments we feel most triggered as parents, often the moments where our own authority wound is being touched. Not to make parenting harder, although it does sometimes, but to invite us into growth. One of the most common ways this shows up in parenting is around listening. For example, when a child doesn't listen and doesn't respond the way we expect or would like, it can be incredibly triggering. Not just because of the moment itself, but because it can touch something much deeper within us. For many parents, it can activate an old feeling of, I'm not being heard. My voice doesn't matter. I'm not being respected. And often those feelings don't actually begin with our children. They come from our own early experiences with authority. Moments where we may not have felt seen, heard, or understood ourselves. So when a child resists, ignores, or pushes back, it can feel like a direct challenge to our authority, and our response can often become way stronger than the situation really calls for. But here's the deeper reframe. From a developmental and soul growth perspective, children are not simply meant to obey. They're learning how to find and test and build their own inner authority. And sometimes that process looks like not listening, pushing boundaries, testing boundaries, saying no, wanting to do things their own way. This doesn't mean there shouldn't be guidance or structure. That's also needed. But it does mean that not every moment of resistance is a problem. Sometimes it's a sign that your child is developing a sense of self, which is good, which is something you want. And this is where conscious parenting invites a shift. Instead of immediately reacting from the feeling of being disrespected, we can pause and ask, is my child truly being defiant here? Or are they learning how to express their own will? And what is this moment bringing up in me? Is this about my childhood? Or is this touching on something older within me that still needs care and attention? When we can slow down in those moments, even just slightly, we can create space for a different kind of response, and one that really serves the child. One that still holds boundaries, but also respects the child's developing sense of self. And here's the marriage connection, because this is also where our relationship with our partner becomes incredibly important, whether you're married, co-parenting, because the relationship between parents is the first model of authority and relationship that children experience. They are watching how decisions are made, how disagreements are handled, how respect is expressed. When children grow up in environments where there is mutual respect and balanced authority, they internalize that as normal, and they carry that into their own relationships later in life. So the work we do in our marriage and partnerships directly impacts our children as well. We know this. This is also part of generational healing. This is why this work is so powerful, because when we begin healing our own inner authority wound, we're not just changing our experience. We're shifting patterns that often go way back generations. We're creating a different foundation for our children. And where authority is not based in fear and control or imbalance, but in respect and responsibility and trust. This is the essence of family ancestral healing, and it has a ripple effect that extends far beyond one generation. And here's the astrology layer. This is where astrology can offer incredible insight. When we look at the patterns between family members in the birth charts, we always see themes around authority, responsibility, and emotional dynamics reflected in the charts. Not as something fixed, but as something we can become more aware of and work with consciously for our own soul growth and that of our partnerships and our children and families. This awareness can be deeply validating and incredibly empowering. That's why I do it, because it gives us a language for understanding both ourselves and our children more clearly. The goal is not to become a perfect parent. It's impossible, it doesn't exist. The goal is to become a conscious parent, a parent who's willing to reflect, grow, take responsibility, and make adjustments when needed. Because when we do that, we create an environment called a goodness of fit where our children can develop their own healthy sense of authority. They learn to trust themselves, they learn to express themselves, and they learn how to relate to authority in a way that's balanced and empowering. Parenting doesn't just shape our children. It also reveals us. It shows us where we're still growing, where we are still healing, and where we're being invited to step more fully into our own authority and self. And while that can be challenging at times, it's also one of the most meaningful, rewarding, and transformative journeys we can take. Because when we do this work, we're not just raising children. We're helping raise a generation that understands how to live with both personal responsibility and self-trust. If this resonates with you, I'll be sharing more about conscious parenting with astrology, my work in this area, as well as more videos about these patterns and how they show up in real life. You can follow along or save this video, come back for more, because this work has the power to transform not only your relationship with your children, but your relationship with yourself. Take care, friends. See you soon.